Okay guys, the time has come to build our swing out tire carrier and drop down table for the 2001 Toyota Tacoma, and more importantly, the bumper that we just made here in the garage. This is going to be stage 2, so we're going to be adding it to this guy. Cool thing is, if you follow along with these videos, I think you can build your own, and I've even got some brackets to help you out. So before we start with the grinding and the welding and the cutting and all the coolness, I want to go over a couple details on just the design that I think are going to really help you if you're trying to make one. So let's get started. Here is the hinge kit that I'm using for this build. Now this will be the third time I've built a swing out using this kit from 4X Innovations. Really high quality stuff. I've been really impressed with it for my own hinge, and like I said, I built another one for a friend of mine. I actually ran this on my truck for the last year with no dust covers, took it apart, re-greased the bearings, and everything's still super tight, super nice. So just really quality and super overbuilt. There's a lot of options that are pretty inexpensive for a hinge for your tire carrier. A lot of people use a trailer spindle. The only issue with doing a classical spindle is that, say you mount it on top of your bumper and this part goes into the bumper. Over time it tends to want to move and loosen up and then eventually rip off. So that is why having something called a double shear, basically it captures top and bottom, is so important, and why I really like this kit. This kit is really designed to be mounted to tubing like this. We are going to mount it on top. We're going to add a little extra reinforcement to the back just because of that, but really cool mounting options if you want to mount it to the back of a plate bumper. Really good. Let's look at some of the bearings. These are replaceable needle bearings. They just need some grease. It's got these awesome little sleeves. Everything goes together nicely like this, and then you can see drops into here like that. Really quality, really like this hinge kit, almost zero play, super sturdy. So this is what we're going to be using today, and the link for this is going to be in the description of the video, so you guys can check it out and see if it's what you want to use for yours as well. And yeah, let's look at the latch we're going to use. Okay, this is nothing special. It's just a latch, a pull latch, but something that you want to make sure when you're looking for a latch. I like to, the way I've designed the closure for my swing out, you need a latch that can pull like this. You don't want one that's just tightening something on a flat surface. You want it to go that 90. That's really important because this is going to pull the swing out, the swing arm into the capture for the swing arm and keep it from bouncing around and stuff. So get a latch like this. The link for this one is going to be in the description. But there are a lot of people who make this and a lot of options. Just, I highly recommend getting one that pulls in this direction. So that's the latch we're going to use. Link in the description. Hinge. And move on to the next spot. All right, let's get started. So first things first, I'm going to figure out the position for the hinge on the back bumper. Now, since I've made one of these before, I've kind of already done the design work, so I'm just going to show you what I'm doing here. And that is lining up the back of the tube bumper with the back of this plate, so we can run a nice reinforcement plate there. I've got the side matched here too, so that when we weld here, this all looks like one piece. So I'm going to move that just like that. And then once I've got both of those lined up just how I want it, I'm going to mark right in the center here, a little scrape, and what that scrape is for, so I can drill a hole right in here with our hole saw, and we're going to drop the weldable nut into that. So that's what I'm going to do right now. So it looks like placement ended up good. That hole saw I was using is kind of old and it kind of walked around a little bit, so I was a little worried that it would get off. Most importantly, the back looks correct, which is great. The could have come a tiniest bit closer to the edge here, but that's totally fine. That's just going to be aesthetics, and we can weld right there all the way around. So yeah, that's why we want to drill that hole out, guys, so that we can drop that nut in there, and then once it's welded in, we can also pull this bolt and pull your whole swing out off if you don't want to have the swing out on at some point. So super handy. Now what I need to do is tack that bolt, that nut into that hole, and to do that we're going to pull the bumper first so we don't have to weld on the truck and everything. So that's the other nice thing, is now that we've got that hole, there's no moving around here. We can pull this whole bumper off and basically finish the build with the bumper off the truck. So let's do that now. Okay, we've got the bumper off the truck, and since we can't weld onto paint, we're gonna mark right here and like that basically, and clean this all up with the grinder. There we go. I'm gonna sand off all that, get it ready to weld. Okay, so here's the welder that I'm using today, and I've been using for all my projects. It's a Forney 220 MP, which means it's a multi-process machine, can do MIG, stick, and TIG. I was lucky enough to win this welder. You probably know that if you've seen my other videos. Right now I have it set up for MIG. I've got it only plugged into 120, which is what I have in my garage. I need to get an adapter for the 220 that's to the dryer machine. So I'm limited to 220 inch per minute, or this wire speed feed. Otherwise I would turn this up higher. But anyways, it's been working awesome. Love this welder. You don't have to get a welder like this. This is about $1,000, but Forney does make a welder called the Easy Weld, and I will have the link to that in the description. And it's only about $230, and you could get welding and doing this project. So anyways, just wanted to show you what I was running. I've got it all clamped up here, and we are going to tack that nut in here. Check it out, using a magnetic square from Harbor Freight. Holds it nice and flat, and then we can just get in there and weld that in. So let's start that now. Okay, hot tip. If I had put the bolt in before I finished welding it, I wouldn't have got a little splatter into the threads, which I did. Not a big deal, it's still gonna thread in nicely, but put the bolt in before you do the full weld, just a little bit so it covers that gap. Hey guys, just wanted to give you a quick tip. You just saw me fully weld the hinge on before we built the rest of the swing out, that's fine, but I do suggest just tacking it on until we build the whole thing, get it all in place, all the pieces, you know, the rest for the arm built, and the tire mount and all that kind of stuff. It just gives you that tiny little bit of adjustability. Once the whole thing's built, you might want to adjust the angle of it a little bit, and because I welded it all on right now, I don't have that option. So when you're building it, don't do what I just did, just tack it together until the end when you can weld the whole thing. So just wanted to say that, not a big issue. I did weld mine completely on and I think it's going to be fine, but if you tack it on, you're going to have more adjustability as you go. So next part. So next step is getting our main piece of the swing out, which is the long swing arm. Now I suggest coping the end of the pipe to fit our barrel of the hinge before you even cut the length. So I'm going to take my long piece of steel, cope it so that it fits around here, and once I've got that set up, then I'm going to go ahead and measure and give it a close measurement. I'm not even going to try and get it exact. I'm going to get it exact. I'm going to give it a little length so that I can adjust it. But I do suggest following this sequence of just coping this first with the long piece of steel and then getting the measurement. So I'm going to show you a technique. If you don't have a coping saw or a hole saw, I'm going to just use the angle grinder and I'll show you how to do that. Okay, so we've got our pipe tube nice and cleaned up. We're going to take the barrel from the swing out and just set it on there until we can see the edge goes edge to edge here. Does that make sense? The diameter of the pipe is a little bit larger than the width of this guy, so it's not fully in the center. It's just to the edge where we can see both sides of the, you see that? Can you see there? We're just gonna go right to the end. Like that. Same thing here. Okay, so we still got a pretty good gap right here, but that's just because we need to open up the mouth of it a little bit, and that's not going to be possible until we get the other side. So don't get discouraged, you're doing it the way you should, or at least it's going to work out. Watch this, we're going to get this side, and we're going to fit it up. Okay, so here's what we got. It's definitely not perfect, but it's very workable. So there's a little gap, well, a pretty good gap right there, but that's plenty easy to weld. And the sides look good, nice and close. Something else you want to keep in mind is you want to make sure you're square. You don't want this, you know, one hole to be in deeper than the other one. So keep that in mind. Make sure you're kind of close to square. You can adjust it a little bit when you go to weld it. But yeah, that's how I usually do it, and then I can run a weld all the way around. So next step is to clean this up a little bit so our weld goes down. We've got some kind of mill scale on here. So I'm going to grind this up, and then we can put these both on the truck and measure the length of our swing arm and cut it. Alright, let's measure the swing arm. I've got measuring tape to the barrel there, all the way down here. And like I said, I'm gonna give myself extra room just so if I make a mistake, I don't have to go get a new piece of metal. So I'm gonna go all the way to 64 inches and cut it there. And then we can trim it to the perfect fit once we get the receiving side done. Okay, to make this cut, you could use your angle grinder, but I have a general wood cutting miter saw. I actually got this for free, but I put one of those carbide Cermont steel demon blades on. They're about 30 bucks, and it'll cut this tubing really easily. So got one of those on there. Now I'm gonna get a nice square cut because I can use this. If you don't have this, don't worry, just use your just go carefully and use your cutoff wheel on your angle grinder. The advantage of using a cutoff saw like this, you get a really nice clean square cut, so very handy. Alright guys, so if you have a Tacoma like mine and you're building this exact bumper, then you could go off these measurements, which I put my first post at 1 foot. The tire is coming out from the swing arm about 4 inches, and it's at a slight angle. I'll have the exact measurements in a little PDF for you guys if you have a Tacoma. If you are not, then at the end of the video I'm going to talk about kind of the theory behind why I built it this high, how far out it goes, all that kind of stuff. So stick around for that if you're just using this video as a guide for your own truck. But I just wanted to let you know, probably one of the most important parts of building one of these is getting the position of the tire on the back of the truck where you want it. I didn't want mine too high or too low or too in the middle, just right so you can still see the brake light, still see over the top, not too low so you don't hit it on stuff, all that kind of stuff. I'll talk more about that at the end of the video, but for this one it's easy for me since I've already done all that work. I'm just going to be literally copying the dimensions of the first one I built. So that's our center post right there. Now we're going to do 45s, and what I'm going to do is measure this long distance, right? And then you go in from the long. Does that make any sense? Let's see, long to long. Let's say 17 inches. Got our freshly cut piece. Let's see how we did. Ooh. There we go. Easy, easy, easy. So you guys can tell how quickly this comes together once you get the little details done. So what I'm gonna do is clean up this kind of rusty metal so that I can get nice clean welds. And then I will tack everything into place. We need to make that post next, and then we'll make a cap, and the next part will be after that, make the receiver part. So moving right along. So got our top post cut. This is 1 foot high. We've got our support post cut. Long edge to long edge is 17 inches. These are 45-degree angles, of course, or close to it. And then the position off your hinge over here is up to you, but like I said before, I'm trying to basically get the tire to fall right inside the body line. You don't want it sticking out, catching on stuff. For me, I don't want it, you know, in the middle, because I want to be able to have this usable space over here for a box or to be able to see out the back. So take that into mind when you're building it for your own truck. My preference is for it to fall like this and not obscure the brake light, not go outside the body line, not be too high, not be too low, blah, 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 blah. So now I've got this set up right here. Metal's all cleaned up where I need to weld it, and I'm gonna start tacking it together. Okay, so check it out. Here's where we're at. We've got everything welded up all the way around, all edges. Inside edges, they're not important, super important for strength, but you don't want water getting in there, so try and get everything all the way around on everything here. Capped up on the top. Only thing we need is the tire mounting plate, but I'm gonna save that for last. Just gives us a last chance to adjust if we need to go in or out or up and down, as far as where the tire is going to be positioned if we make any mistakes. So I like to leave that last. We've got our pipe kind of ghetto coped here, but that's okay. And what I'm going to do now is place it on the back here and tack it in place. Before we do that, I like to put a spacer that's equal on both sides of this tubing. In my case, it's a piece of 1 inch by 2 inch cutoff tube I had, or a pipe I had lying around, tube or pipe, I don't know which one it is. Anyways, 1 inch there, 1 inch there. That way you know that when you go to weld that, it's not crooked, right? You want it the same here as you want it there. Now, another little tip is that before making one of these, I had made one on the truck and done all the welding once the bar was already welded to that. And what happens is when you do all this welding down here, that's a lot of heat and a lot of weld. It'll actually bend the tube just a little bit. So do that. That's why we do it first on here, so we can set this swing out level on either corner, and that way you don't get one that's going up like a banana. So there's a little curve here, but it's totally okay because it's going to bow in the center and we're going to have it spaced perfectly. So I'm going to grab that, put it on there, and tack it. Okay, so it's set on the bumper. We've got our spacer. We know that we're 1 inch above from this side. We've got our spacer on the other side. We've got our 1 inch off the bumper here. So we know, as far as the bumper's concerned, with the swing out, they're both level to each other. And it's also kind of dead in the middle of that guy right there. So looking good. I'm gonna go ahead and weld this on. Now that the bumper is connected to the truck, when you do that and you're gonna weld, make sure that you remove your ground cable from your truck. So I've already done that. You don't wanna just get a mistake and overdo your electronics in your truck. So make sure you do that first. I've done that. Let's weld this up. Alright guys, don't forget to grease your bearings when you put them in. I'm going ahead and getting that done right now. Little dust seals go right on there as well. And then it's going to get all closed up nicely, so don't forget that. Okay guys, check it out. Swing out is on, bolt is in, and tightened up. Now, this is important. You want to tighten this down before you set the height for this, because notice when you tighten the bearings down, get it all in there, you're gonna get your final resting height under tension. And for mine, it tightened up a little bit on this 1-inch block, probably because of the angle of my hinge isn't exactly right. So what I'm gonna do for my resting support for this is going to make it just under 1 inch, like just a hair under 1 inch, and it'll hold it. When it goes up, it'll kind of take the tension off. There'll be no weight on the bearings when it's resting. So this part is next, how we're going to capture it, and I'm going to show you how I make that right now. Okay, so imagine this is the end of the swing arm. We want it to rest 1 inch above the bottom of the bumper. So it's going to come swinging in like this, and all we got to do is place this like that, and we're going to actually cut this shape out along here on the top as well. We'll cut it like that, and you're going to see we'll cut out right here too, but not this last wall. And then this swing arm is going to be able to come into the cutout area and totally be captured from the top, the back, the bottom, and this side. And when we put the latch on, it's going to be really tight. So this is kind of cool. This design came up actually almost by accident. I didn't know what to do, and I kind of just had to figure it out, and it ended up being this, and I really like it. So yeah, let's make it. And just about that deep, and this high. Okay, we've got our hole cut, and now you kind of see what I was talking about, probably a lot better, is if this was the end of the swing arm, it's going to be coming in, this isn't a square piece, but coming in like that. It can rest on the bottom, pulled into the side, pulled into the back. Now we just got to cut this guy. There we go. Okay, so I've gone ahead and tacked the support here on the end. I wanted it perfectly flush over here. And if you look over here, there's kind of a gap because of the way I ground the bumper. That's okay, I'm going to fill that in. But I'm actually going to leave this back part open to let any water that comes in drain out the back. So don't weld this back hole right there. We're going to weld everything else. Before I do that, I've got my swing arm here, and now I'm going to trim it to fit exactly what we already had. So I'm going to draw a line right there, and then follow this around with a speed square, cut this guy off, and it should be a perfect fit. Okay, so now that we've got the capture for the end of the swing out, we're gonna cap this off so we can put our latch on. Now to cap it, instead of cutting 4 corners, we're just gonna take the piece we cut out of the tube, and it's almost perfect, so we're just gonna cut right along here, and then we'll have our metal to the top. We could even probably do that. Extra reinforcement. But I think what I'm gonna do is just slice this and have a nice little piece. Okay, well, my GoPro battery died last night, but I still had to finish this up so I could get it drivable. This is where I got to. I've got this guy all welded on. The latch is mostly welded on. I need to do a little more welding on it, but you can see it's positioned so that when it closes, it goes past parallel like that, and it's basically sucking this handle back down. Now, the handle I used on this one, I actually don't like it as much as the handle I have on my other one, because a larger handle, and it actually sticks up a little higher, so it's a little easier to get that angle right. But anyways, this works. If I can find the other one, I'll put a link in the description for that one as well. But I just want to give you an update. This is where we're at now. What I've done since the last video clip is cut out my 8x8 square that I'm going to use to mount the wheel on, and I've got this drilled for the lugs. And what I did was basically set it on the backside, mark it with a Sharpie, drill it out, and this guy is going to go right on here. Now, another quick little note is that, remember how I said it's nice to put this on last because you have that adjustability? Well, when I was welding this guy on, I didn't realize it, but I gave it a tiny bit of a angle, so it's angled away from the truck just a hair, which takes away the angle I had on here. So I had to cut a new angle to get the tire to lean into the car a little more. So I've done this 3 times. I'm still making mistakes, and that's why I really encourage you to do this last, just so that you can have that final adjustability with your tire up and down, left and right, and also if you need to caulk it in a little bit more. So that's where we're at. I'm going to tack this on, test fit the tire, make sure I've got it in the right position and everything fits, and then we can fully weld it. And man, the last thing we got to do is weld the little barrel pin there, and then we should be done. Nice and on there for sure. Okay, we've come to an important part, which is welding on the little pull pin that sets where your swing out opens to. There's a nice thing about this, it's got 2, so I like to set it to just vertical or parallel to the truck, and then when you open it, if you want to open it again, it comes just a little bit wider. So first thing I do, drop the tailgate, just again to be extra sure that I've got it in a spot where it's going to be able to open. Get it all nice and parallel, and then I'm just going to tack this on here with the handle in there. If you weld the whole thing with the handle in there, you'll probably melt the handle right out of the fin. Don't ask me how I know that. So tack this on, then do our best to remove the T-handle, and then do a full weld. Alright, totally welded on. Got a lot of splatter, which is kind of a bummer, but now you can pull that guy up and check it out. Tire is on. Look how nice the tolerances turned out. Nice and close. Not sticking out at all. Really glad I re-angled that tube. Super stoked. Alright, now time to take the whole bumper off, clean it up one last time, and give it some paint. Alright you guys, you've made it this far in the video, and we are getting so close to being finished. My garage is an absolute mess. I'm kind of rushing ahead for no reason. Didn't really sand this as much as I should have. So definitely clean it better than I did when you do yours, but we're gonna go ahead and primer this and get some paint on it so I can wrap up this build and wrap up this video. So let's primer it up. All right guys, just put on a couple coats of this Krylon hammered black spray paint. Just the same stuff I used on the base of the bumper, and pretty much covered the whole thing. Very excited. Taped off the handle so you can keep it red. And this is gonna wear off and when this moves and stuff, but I think it just looks better all black, and I don't mind touching it up. So did that. Everything's all coated. I'm gonna run to the store and grab some new and more mounting bolts. They're 1/2-inch diameter bolts. So super excited. Get this thing mounted on the truck. Next time you see me in the next clip, it's gonna be on the truck, and we're gonna talk all about this build, the mistakes I made that you don't have to make, and how it looks on the truck. We're finally done. Thanks for making it all the way through that long video. Hopefully there wasn't too much grinding and cutting and welding, and you were able to follow along. If you weren't, definitely leave a comment below and let me know what questions you might have or things I might have missed. Also, I just want to say thanks to all the new subscribers. I can't believe we just hit 10,000 subscribers on the way to film this video. So thank you guys. And if you haven't subscribed, I'd love it if you do. It just makes it more fun watching that number grow, seeing the channel grow, and everybody enjoying the video. So thank you guys. And let's take one last look, a little look at what we made. Man, I am stoked on the way this came out. That Krylon paint always impresses me. Tires on there with some lug nuts. Hinge by 4X Innovations, looking awesome. Super stoked. And you guys, I'm so happy with the final result. Everything is nice and tidy. I mean, that is really close to the back of the truck, which is just what I wanted. I don't like it hanging off too far, and it's just rock solid. So yeah, stoked on this. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, found it useful, and definitely let me know if you have questions when you're in the midst of building this. Check the video description for any links. I have some updated brackets that'll actually eliminate having to buy your own shackles. The brackets will go right through the bumper, which is going to be cool. Might save you a little money, and it'll definitely be even stronger. But yeah, check out what we made. Let's open it up. This guy comes back, slides right out. That hinge is gonna snap right in, right there. Super nice. We can even open it that extra bit. I usually just leave it at the parallel right there. And that's it. Next video, we're gonna add the drop-down camp table, which is just such a nice addition. We're gonna be able to open up the tailgate, drop it right by the camp table. Doesn't take up any extra space on the truck, but gives you a bunch of extra flat space to work with. So, all right, you guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Thanks again to all the new subscribers and subscribers from the very beginning. I'm gonna drive home and enjoy the swing out living on the back of my truck. All right, catch you in the next video. Bye, guys.